Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be discussing how ECS, Episcopal Community Services, has shifted our approach and how we are transforming lives and moving people out of poverty for good. My name is Arley Styer. I'm the Chief of Programs, and next to me is David Griffith, our head coach, and he's going to talk to us about how we are transforming lives and moving people out of poverty. So Dave, first question I have for you. How are you?
I'm good.
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 Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year.
Okay. So, why do we need to innovate in this sector?
Great question. And really, it's at the root of all the work that we're currently doing. If you look at the data on poverty, we know in 1960, poverty was around 15% of the U.S. population. If you look today, that number really hasn't changed. It's still around 15% nationally. The interesting part of that number is the income level hasn't been adjusted since the early 70s. So one could make the argument that that number is even higher. In Philadelphia, where roughly 27-28% population lives in poverty, that's the highest of any major city in the United States. And so we look at that, and one would have to conclude that in the 50, 60 years since statistics have been kept, the needle on poverty hasn't moved. So as you look at what social service agencies are doing, and in our case, ECS, you'd have to say, you know what, we've got to change what we're doing if we want to move the needle on poverty. And that, frankly, is where we have put our focus in the strategic plan. We believe that the root cause of many of the problems in our region is intergenerational poverty. Mm-hmm. And we believe that we got to do things differently to have an impact.
Absolutely.
So we go from there. But I would, one of the things I think innovation is really critical, Arley, and you've led a major effort here that we can't be perfect in program design. So we've always had a notion to pilot things. And
right.
I thought maybe you might want to comment on kind of piloting and how we go about things as a way to drive innovation.
Right, absolutely. So part of, I think, what allows us to innovate is really going through the process of, seeing what the need is, trying out a solution, piloting it, and really assessing to see how it meets the need. And so at ECS, I've been here for 5.5 years along with Dave. We have really taken that to heart in terms of how we do everything. We've piloted really a lot of the newer initiatives we've worked on here for the past 5.5 years, which have brought us to this point of starting a new program and really getting us to focus on the key components that help people gain economic self-sufficiency. So one of the things, Dave, that you always talk about is, yourself being a head coach. And I know coaching is a big part of, what we do here. So tell us why you call yourself the head coach.
Well, it's I actually have it printed up on the business cards. My official title is executive director, but I really don't think of myself that way. When we look at where we're trying to go with our strategic plan, it's really based on very solid brain science that is identified as having the ability to move people who have been in poverty out of poverty. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that brain science and how that works, it's really based on what I think you and I have come to call, and I think really the industry has come to call, a coaching model.
Yep.
Traditional case management, one could argue, used to be, you need to do this, fill out this form, go here, go there. And what we've learned from our research is that by meeting people where they are, asking them what are their goals, and then coaching them along that continuum. And then what we do that is also part of the research is we provide financial rewards when people achieve goals, and we'll get into why that's important in a little bit. Coaching is absolutely integral to the change we're striving to drive. I also think that my job, frankly, is to hire and nurture talent and coach talent. I'm not a social worker. I'm obviously not a priest. Those were attributes of my predecessors. That the ability to coach the staff and nurture the staff is important. So I use head coach as a way to remind you guys that we're a coaching culture. And frankly, when I go out and make calls on folks and they see head coach on the card, they say, well, what's that all about? And it gives me a great way to have that conversation. So we go there. Could you maybe, Arley, talk a little bit about mindset and why this coaching methodology is different from what you've seen?
Sure. So, I touched upon earlier, the fact that we've been innovating and using piloting and just assessing what we're doing and meeting the needs of our participants and the citizens in Philadelphia through that way. And Dave just talked a little bit about coaching. Part of what we're excited to be doing is a new program called Mindset, and basically it's a program working with adults who are motivated and ready for change in their lives to help them take control of their lives. It is a long-term program that uses coaching primarily to help people gain economic self-sufficiency. So individuals that come into the program starting actually in a few weeks are going to get matched with coaches. They'll have access to specialist services in areas of employment and higher education and financial services. They'll be able to gain incentives and earn close to 3 months worth of living expenses over a long-term period to chart their own path to self-sufficiency and out of poverty for themselves and their families. And so that's part of the huge change that we're making in terms of, just moving from, one of the things that's our core in terms of stability, but then also helping people who are really motivated and people who need the most, take that extra mile in their lives and really transform their lives. And so one of the things that I know that you're always saying is your tagline of moving from maintenance to change. And part of the reason why we started Mindset, if you will, and adapted this coaching model was to really make that shift. So tell me about why that's important and what that means to you.
Thank you. When I look at the sector and I look at the issue of poverty, again, one could conclude, I think pretty factually, that a lot of maintaining people has occurred in the sector. The data, 15% 1960, 15% now. And you could look anecdotally. I think you and I have spent a lot of time looking at different programs in the city. And look, maintenance is really important. It keeps people alive. I'm not trying to diminish that. But if we want to go after intergenerational poverty, it's very clear to me that we have to do something different. We have to be in the change game. When I asked you guys to go out and do the research as part of the strategic plan, and we identified Empath out of Boston as one of the leading edge agencies doing this work, it really struck me that the brain science work was to drive a different way of doing this work. And I just think that if we think about just maintaining folks, that may not be where we want to be as an agency. We certainly have maintenance programs, certainly in terms of stability and prevention, and we can talk about that in a minute. But I think driving innovative impact, driving change that moves people out of poverty and gives them the tools and frankly the savings from the financial rewards is certainly appears to be one that has great impact. And I really think we need to be about change as an agency. I know you're committed to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, it's quite unique, considering the rate of poverty we have in Philadelphia to, be a part of an initiative that's really going to, in a specific way, help people in a defined period of time get to the point where they can take care of themselves, where they can take care of their families. They're not dependent on government subsidies. And it's not just through the programming. I think, a big part of that, people being able to do that also depends on public policy and our ability to influence public policy and the things that exist that, make it challenging for people. So one of the things that, a term that you've coined in terms of the public policies and how they,
Oh yeah, I know where you're going here. Yeah.
Are not always set up to have people thrive is your term SPPs. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I come out of a technology business where everything's acronyms, but SPPs are what I call stupid public policy. And it just strikes me that there are a number of public policy structures that are not productive or useful at this time and at this moment. A great example, Arley, one of the first things you taught me when I came here was, Dave, look, for every dollar above the poverty level that an individual earns, they lose roughly, not exactly, but roughly $1.50 of benefit. And what was the term? Cliffing.
Yes,
yeah.
The cliff effect.
So the cliff effect, for example, with child care, you go from having a pretty strong benefit and the ability to work to losing it. So that doesn't strike me as particularly smart public policy. And so one of the things in our strategic plan that we've done is we've created a chief inclusion and advocacy officer. And we believe that advocacy, in partnership with our stakeholders, we believe that if we can be a catalyst to drive change in some of these public policies, we believe we can have a very significant impact on the lives, not just of people in our program, but all the individuals who experience poverty. And as you know, we are working on collaboration and partnership with other agencies, something I'm particularly proud of. We're not competing. We're rolling up our sleeves, doing what we do well, and asking them to come do what they do well. But I think advocacy in many ways may be the biggest lever we can pull as an agency. And so if you're listening today and you want some additional information, I would urge you to go to www.ecsphilly.org. Leave it to me to screw that up. But www.ecsphilly.org is a way you can learn about our work. It's a way that you can learn about the advocacy efforts that we have. We have an advocacy committee on the board, of the board rather, and we think that's a place where you can get involved and help us move the needle on poverty. It's something I think is really important to our work.
Right, so it sounds like we're kind of focused on the city of Philadelphia in terms of helping citizens move out of poverty through our programming, but then just having a broader approach in terms of being able to address these SPPs with our advocacy efforts and really engaging our partners and the community in doing so.
Yeah, I think, it's not just Philadelphia. We happen to overlap the Diocese of Philadelphia, which is the 5-county region.
Okay.
There's 135 parishes, I think, at last count. We really want to partner with all of those parishes and really with our community at large. and our fellow agencies, and really come together to see if we can make some impact.
So my final question for you today is that we've been talking about our work in terms of like this three-legged stool, which includes stability, prevention, and transformation. What do those mean to you?
Well, I think they're useful terms to describe the work in the sector and our work here at ECS. As I said, I would characterize stability programs as things like our shelter, our emergency housing. They help people get stable and move out of crisis at the first level. I would think prevention is programs like our out of school time program. What are we up to, about 800 kids roughly, something like that? Close, yeah. If you count summer.
I was going to say, we're growing every day.
We're growing every day, but I'm particularly proud of that program in that we have a number of youth that are going from age 5 through 13, a STEAM-based and project-based learning curriculum that, we got to gather the data, but longitudinally, I have to believe that those individuals have a better chance of graduating from high school. And we know that a high school degree is one of the best indicators of future success. And so I would see stability and prevention there, but then this transformational impact, in my mind, is very much the coaching model that we're delivering, not only in mindset, but as you know, we train the entire agency, and all of our case managers, we now call them coaches, are providing services, and we're pretty confident, based on the data we've seen out of our evaluation group, that the quality of our case management services has certainly improved. Now, it's still early. I don't want to declare victory yet, but it's a directional moment for us, and I feel pretty powerful about that. I think over time we will want to shift our mix of programs to be more transformational impact, but I don't see us ever getting 100% out of stability and prevention. Folks forget we've been at this for almost 150 years. And some of our programs, matter of fact, all our programs, are well regarded. They provide vital services in the city, and I don't take that lightly as executive director and head coach. But I do think by calling on our partners and our collaboration to drive programs that impact poverty, I think that's where we can really make a big difference. And it won't be in my lifetime, may not be in yours, but I'd like to think that we will drive a fundamental change in the way this work gets done in the city of Philadelphia, and I'm really, really proud of that.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. So to everyone who tuned in today, thank you for taking the time to spend with us. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, feel free to visit us at www.ecsphilly.org. And if you have any questions, you can comment below this video and let us know what you were interested in. If you're interested in hearing more, we'll do a follow-up video. And thanks again.
Yep, thank you.